it's Dan, Book Nook Noggin here, and I want to thank you for tuning in to check out my May book haul. But before I share with you the books that I have got for the month of May, I wanted to tell you some exciting news. Hopefully some of you guys had saw my interview with Vic LeMay Mist, and I wanted to, at some point, I know I live a busy life, and sometimes things get hectic, sometimes things get crazy, and this is going to be a very last-minute announcement. Of course, unless you're following me on Twitter, on June 2nd, I'm going to be doing another interview with someone from the indie horror community, and this one person's going to be a booktuber, someone who everyone loves the books that they share and talk about. They're also another big player in the indie horror community, and maybe you've never heard of this fella, maybe you have, but you're just curious and want to learn a little more. And it's kind of, I have to go by his schedule and my schedule, and it's going to be during the day. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for June 2nd. So stay tuned for that interview. You're more than likely, if you're seeing this kind of late, and I know not everybody's going to be available to watch stuff live during the day, and that's okay, because you can watch it after the fact, and that it still works out. So enough of me rambling. I got a couple of books I wanted to share with you guys, and let's get on with that. I found some interesting finds at the start of the month, and I found this one. Razored Saddles. Now, I just assumed that horror westerns was a new thing, but I guess they were not. I found these vintage horror books, and when I saw this one, I was like, oh my god, I'm like, they made horror westerns, like, before, like, the 2000s? So yeah, it's edited by Joe R. Lansdale. But it's got some interesting people. It's got Robert R. McCammon, F. Paul Wilson, Richard Lehman, Chet Williamson, Richard Matheson, and let me see if it says in the cover. This book it's a little rough around the edges. It's seen some better days, but you know, when I saw this, I couldn't not pick it up because it is something unique. And these all came out in 1989. Still, this is a pretty cool find. Pretty cool find. I was excited when I saw that. I just recently put that up on Instagram, even though I've had it all month. And then I keep hearing people in the indie horror community always talking about Edward Lee, and this is City Infernal by him. Hell is a city, forget the old-fashioned sulphurous pit you may have read about. Over the millennia, hell has evolved into a bustling metropolis and looming skyscrapers. So this could be interesting. I've never read Edward Lee, but I've heard he is someone that everybody kind of like is one of the greats. So I saw that and I was like, I'll pick up that. And then I had this older book. This is a non-fiction book. It's a travel book. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. It might suck for all I know. But I saw the title and I picked this up. It's The Sex Lives of Cannibals by J. Martin Troost, and it may be horrible, it may be bad, but I figured it would be kind of interesting. I actually picked this one up back in April, but I had forgotten. It was sitting in my car, and I forgot about it, so I was like, oh yeah, I better share that one, because that one was kind of interesting. And then I got another Irvin Welsh. This one is Filth. I love this cover, the bright blue with the piggy mask. So I guess this one is about detectives in Edinburgh. I'm not sure how they say it in Scotland. Please correct me if you know the correct pronunciation. But Irvin Welsh is someone who writes in Scottish, and he writes the way they talk there. If you've never read any Scottish literature, very much the way they talk in Scotland, like kind of like a lot of the slang and the way they say certain things, like canna, instead of canna, it's canna and stuff like that. So you kind of have to get a feel for the way they talk there to really understand what's going on. This is one of my favorite authors, so when I saw this, I was like definitely scooping that one up. And I picked up this one. This is called Legends, and this is a collection of short stories written One's written by Stephen King, one by Robert Silverberg, one by Orson Scott Card, and one by Raymond E. Feist. And they're different short stories from their fantasy stories, I guess you could say. So it sounds interesting. Like the Stephen King one is A Tale of Roland from the Dark Tower. It's the Little Sisters of Illyria, which I read the graphic novelization of that story already. I've never read anything by Robert Silverberg, but I have read stuff by Orson Scott Card, and this is a short from his Tales of Elven Maker, which was a great fantasy alternate history series. It was originally, I guess, when he planned it out, it was supposed to be 7 books, but I think there's only 6 books currently. I don't know if he's gonna like finish out that series, but it's kind of like Little House on the Prairie meets like Lord of the Rings kind of fantasy magic elements. I really enjoyed that series. I highly recommend it if you are someone who's into fantasy and series. Definitely check out that one. And I have not read anything by Raymond E. Feist, so this one should be interesting to check out as well. And I already shared this in a book mail video, like I had mentioned there. I had read Mr. and Mrs. X, which was Rogue and Gambit. It was a 2-volume series, and they highlighted a storyline that took place in this book about Mojo, you know, from Mojo World. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of interesting, and I knew at the time that there were X-Men team books, like there was X-Men Red, X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue, and I kind of figured that XMen Black was another book, and this must be the only one they created for XMen Black. So I got this relatively cheap on Amazon, even including shipping and handling, because it was through a third-party seller. It was much cheaper than it was selling from Amazon. That's the only comic I got this past month. And then another book that I shared from my book mail video was Matters Most Macabre by Tyler James. I think this is his debut short story collection. I contacted him via Facebook. I've been joining a lot of horror-themed groups and book groups on Facebook, and I've been trying to network there. I started my own horror-themed Facebook group. I don't know if I want to share that openly to everybody who follows me on YouTube, because it's run by my personal Facebook, and I don't know if I want everybody knowing what my real name is, you know, because of stalkers and stuff like that. People be crazy, so yeah. But yeah, I contacted him and I said, you know, this sounds interesting. I'd love to help promote this book for you. And guys, check this out. The cover alone, that's a cover buy right there. And then Sam Koyuznik was on Twitter, and she was asking people if they wanted to read and review Heart Strange and Dreadful by Tim McGregor. And yeah, I was like, I definitely... This is from her publishing house, Off Limits Press. And I was like, yeah, I've heard great things about this. It takes place in the like early 1800s New England about a deadly plague. And I heard... I'm not 100% sure. Maybe they were talking about something else, because people were talking about a bunch of books, but I think the plague may be vampires, and it kind of ties in with that vampire hysteria from that time period. But I heard there possibly may be a sequel to this too. So yeah, I jumped on the chance to get this one. And then I pre-ordered Scanlines by Todd Kiesling, and I saw that somebody else had picked this up too. And I know there was a bunch of swag that came with it. And I didn't get... There's like a playlist. Like a Spotify like playlist that was supposed to be with this. I didn't get that. So I'm going to have to look up and see what the playlist is. So it's a really short book. I know that Kelly Hooked on Books had read it. She said it was really good. And it's a really short read. So I'll have to get to this one sometime soon. I still have to read his Devil's Creek, which is really long. That one's over 400 pages. Oh, and this one's got the signed bookplate because I did pre-order it. So, yeah. And then last but not least, I've got Howls from Hell. This is a compilation of short stories. I think that they're... Oh, okay. I guess they're not all werewolf stories, but they are. Well, it's got a foreword by Grady Hendrix. God, I can't talk. A lot of the names in here, the only person I know is Shane Hawk, and he's relatively new. But this should be interesting. This one just recently came out sometime in May, like about mid-May. So yeah, it's also got a little short review from Stephen Graham Jones. He says, quality horror by true believers who can write. What more can you ask for? And of course, Grady Hendrix does the foreword. So yeah, if he has faith in this collection, then it's probably worth checking out. But yeah, that is the last book for what I picked up in May. If you've read any of these, or if you anticipate reading any of these, I know a couple of my friends want to read that horror western collection, and to be honest with you, because it's from the late 80s, I don't know if it's easily obtainable or not. You can go ahead and check and see. Hopefully you can find it. Hopefully it's still being printed, or there's copies being sold someplace. I just happened to come across it at a thrift store, and I lucked out. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Stay tuned for more, interviews. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for watching. Till next time, stay healthy and be good to each other.